Good morning, everybody. Just wait a couple of seconds as people dial in. But I think we are good to go. Great. So, hi, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for joining today's webinar on new buses, new thinking. My name is Steve Johnson. I'm a sales director here at Tenix, and today we've got a 30-minute discussion on a very big topic. Not sure how much we'll fit in, but we're focusing on how can fleet operators, can bus operators shift their operational mentality from diesel to electric vehicles. Let's see how much we can cover. Possibly we arrange other sessions on a similar topic in the future. Throughout the session, throughout the 30 minutes, please do feel free to drop questions in the chat. We will have a few minutes at the end of the webinar to take any questions you have. So yeah, please do ask anything that comes into mind. But the reason we put this webinar together today is it's probably quite an obvious one. A mindset shift for any operator. Electrifying their fleet is obviously going to be a big priority, because essentially, if not managed properly, it can show up as missed departures, unnecessary energy costs, but also probably teams losing confidence in the technology if they don't know how to use it properly, or they're still stuck with their diesel vehicle habits. But what's become clear to us over the last few months and years is that no matter how far along you are in your electrification process, no matter how advanced you are, getting your entire operation to think electric rather than diesel is still an obstacle. And what we see that doing is it prevents operators from getting the most out of the big technology investments they've made. So we're in a very fortunate position here at Tenix. We've been working with a wide range of electric fleets since 2018 on their transition, and so hopefully we've got some good best practices to share with you over the next 30 minutes. Which brings me to our speaker today. We've got on the webinar with us Ørjan Sætre. Ørjan is an electrification project leader at Tenix and has spent the last 9 years working directly with operators through every stage of their electrification process, including some of those Norwegian operators who were among the first in Europe to electrify back in 2018. Ørjan is also responsible for another 80 plus depots that we're managing charging at across Scandinavia and Europe. So there's not a lot of people out there that know this territory better than Ørjan. So good to have you here, Ørjan.
Thanks for having me. This is going to be fun.
Good stuff. Yeah, so let's kick things off with the first question today. So I guess as we, in your experience, as we start working with an operator that maybe has just onboarded some new electric vehicles, for example, what would you say is an operational process that maybe catches them by surprise or catches them most off guard as those first EVs enter service?
Yeah, it starts, of course, with the tender and the cost of infrastructure, which is different from the elder or the diesel modes where they had pumps ready. Now they have to build electricity and have chargers, and then it's the price of electricity and peak power and how that turns out compared to diesel, which is usually a flat price. Here it fluctuates a lot more. And then, of course, the processes around the charging versus fueling and the washing of the vehicles. There are cycles to this where it needs to go back on charging. So there's a time difference in the operational process. And then all of the people needs to learn these new processes and procedures and take into account how much time you have and when it's supposed to be ready. So we see a lot of people have an epiphany that it isn't the same as diesel or biogas or so on, and that they need to rethink a little bit about their structure, but also the pricing comes into play eventually when you've started up and got things running. So yeah, that's the most part.
Right. Okay. So a few things there. It can be energy pricing. It can be the timing it takes to move a vehicle through the depot, I guess, or the washing. You say I guess there's other things that come into it as well. Is there something in particular that when I guess when you're working with an operator for the first time, that's a habit that they have, for example, or a certain way they're working that makes you think these guys are still in diesel mode rather than electric mode?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the need to charge to 100% at the fastest pace possible, because that's how diesel works. You fill it up and then you're done. So the need to always have 100% on the electric buses is something that sticks from diesel. And then the instant charging, because they worry about finishing too late with the charge if they postpone it. And then the calculations in how they operate, when the cycle starts, when it's supposed to be finished, what is supposed to be done in the meantime, going back to the washing. For example, if you have a cycle within there, and then there's also always the attitude towards electric that also has some myths attached, of course. Those are mostly it for how you operate from before to now. It'll change a little bit in how you address certain situations, of course.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think the point about wanting to charge as quickly as possible, as soon as they can, and also to 100%. It's obviously understandable. That's the way it was done in the diesel days, and obviously that habit is going to transfer over. But I think once obviously a charge management system is in place, and you know exactly when a vehicle needs to leave, you know its departure time, you know what potentially its energy requirements are for the next route. That's when you can start playing around with, we can charge this slower because it doesn't need to leave until 6 a.m, or maybe we don't need 100%. But obviously that's from maybe some of the more mature operators. That's interesting. Yeah, great. What would you say, I guess, on the flip side, are there parts of electric operations that some operators you work with worry about maybe too much beforehand that actually doesn't turn out to be an issue for them?
Yeah, there are always people are always thinking in like worst case scenarios or the myths about electric vehicles, the quality, how the vehicles handle, short range. But the newer buses actually have somewhere usually between 400 and 600 kilometers of range. So range isn't the factor that it used to be when this all started. And then, of course, the battery longevity, thinking about the tender period that were, 6, 8, 10, 12 years. And we see that some of the earlier customers that started very early with the electrification still have a lot more battery than needed still, and they have lost very little of the capacity. But that's one of the worries that they worry about in the beginning, and then it tends to wane out because of the way it actually operates. And most of the newer buses handle very well. A lot of the drivers report that these are very good buses, and they like to drive them. It's easy. They are good. The manufacturers are really up to par on this side as well.
Right.
So those are the ones we meet the most.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. That's a reassurance in a way that actually the buses, if the right investments are made in the right buses and the right technology, that they do deliver. Then a lot of the time in terms of range, I guess it does also come into making sure that they are the charging of those buses to protect the range and protect the battery is important as part of that. Gives them one less thing to worry about, which is great. Is there so I guess on the subject then of educating and training an operator as we start working with them on the system and what the changing nature of the operation will look like. Are there particular areas of resistance that you meet a lot of the time? Is it, the drivers, for example, you mentioned before, schedulers or the operators, are the particular areas that people are a little bit more resistant to getting on board?
Yeah, absolutely. With new technology and new processes and procedures, you will meet some resistance, of course, and it's usually based on the perception people have and the myths around EVs, of course, and also how to charge and the differences. When you look at the drivers, they usually have this range anxiety. They won't be able to meet their route, even though they have probably the ability to drive the route 3, 4, 5 times over before it even becomes an issue. And they also need to learn the new buses and how they operate. People are skeptical. They've driven the same type of bus for the last 20 years. Of course, we see some of them not wanting the change. But most of them, with some experience and they get to test a little bit, they're very positive when you turn it around. On the other side, it's usually the skepticism for new technology and processes. They need to learn as well as adapt to and then train the people doing this. So the schedulers and operators see the downside if they don't get this to work from the get-go. So of course there are some like resistance around not having enough charging power in total, not wanting to skimp on that. And then of course if you're not running at max power capacity, there's a little bit of skepticism that you won't be able to have all buses ready when needed. But we see that most depots are made not just to capacity, but way above it. So they have a lot of room. And as soon as a little bit of experience and training comes into play here, most of the resistance kind of fade away, which is the good part.
Right. And that's, I guess, that's a big part of your role at Tenix, right? To guide them through that process and get them to a point where they feel confident that the infrastructure and the technology is going to work. And I guess in addition to that, it's important as part of that process to be able to have as much visibility through a charge management system as to what's going on in real time. Is the charger, is a vehicle plugged into a charger? Is it receiving the right amount of charge? Is it going to be ready on time? for its shift. That visibility piece, I think, is really important to overcome that resistance. Do you find, and I touched on this at the start of the webinar, is what I think has been what we've kind of understood over the last few months at a lot of events we've had, customer meetings we've had, is even those, even operators that are very advanced, that have maybe got, tens of depots with hundreds, if not thousands, of electric vehicles, are also kind of can still be stuck with this operational mindset shift, as well as those, smaller operators that are just rolling out their first EVs. Do you think they tend to struggle with different things often, or are there similar difficulties across both type of fleet?
Yeah, well, there's in the end, it boils down to getting that bus out on time with enough capacity. But with the larger depots and fleets, there is a little bit more of the complexity of getting everything to work seamlessly. But they also have the larger potential, both to save, but to make it into one standard setup. For the small operations and depots, they have less margin, both when it comes to operations and savings, and they might have one extra bus coming in that skews kind of their normal day-to-day operations, but in a big depot, one extra bus doesn't really matter that much because of the size of it. And of course, the local differences are usually the ones with the largest impact. Where are you situated? What kind of routes? Are you driving the same routes every day? Do you have the same drivers? The local differences, I would say, are the ones with the largest impact. Do you have one driver, one bus for every day? Or are you shaking it up a little bit?
Okay, great. Yeah, I think something that we're fortunate here at Tenix is the team, the operational team that we have, with Ørjan being a big part of that team, working with all the depots and operators we work with currently, is to help, as we've discussed, to help these operators adjust and change the mindset through their organization. What would you say are the main areas that you and your team focus on to help them with those mindset adjustments?
Yeah, we usually go through the product, both in training, but also what is possible. And then we do a step-by-step implementation. So we expand capabilities as we move along based on what the need is from the customer and what their day-to-day operations look like, to make it as seamless transition as possible. You don't start with the most advanced steps the first day. You give them some experience to leverage into the next phase, of course. And then we already have existing experience, as you mentioned, by 80 plus depots. We have had implementation since 2019, 20, around there, just to help them see both the possibilities and the best fit for their needs, of course. And then the local variations come into play here as well. But there are very few scenarios we haven't already been through. So that gives us a good way in to the discussion of how we can help them best prioritize their need from the day-to-day operations.
You've seen it all essentially in the last 9 years. Maybe not all, but a lot of it.
For now, we have a very, very good pool of experience in our operational team. from everything to being on the depot to having implementation from the early stages of electrification in Norway. So of course there will be new scenarios, so we'll be there for that as well. And that's a good thing for us and also the market where we are, to be able to stay implementing new phases through this, through how it changes and with the new EVs coming. So it's just getting better and better.
Right. Yeah, and I think something interesting you touched on as well was making sure we're following a step-by-step approach. I think there's a lot of great ideas and very advanced ideas about how you can run an infrastructure, a charging infrastructure at a depot, or the depot sharing, vehicle to grid. There's a lot of kind of big ideas about how you can really optimize that infrastructure that you've invested in, for financial purposes, to obviously always making sure the fleet is ready to leave on time. But I think a lot of the time it's a case of, right, well, let's build to that point. The capability is there, but let's work first by first. Let's build step by step. Let's build that confidence, change that mindset one step at a time. And a big part of that is made possible through your team, and also through having a charge management system, for example, that gives that visibility and helps you scale confidently. That's a really interesting point. Great. Well, I think we've got about 8 minutes left on the webinar. It's gone by very fast. I think we can possibly take to some questions. Leona, did you were there any questions from the attendees that you've got?
We don't have any questions in the chat unless one pops up now. But maybe since we have a few minutes left, I'll ask a couple of questions, because there were a few things that I got curious about while you were talking, Ørjan. What is the most common phone call you get from a new customer during the first month after going live?
Well, there can be many. Usually has to do with either it's not connecting, they're new to the whole EV thing. There might be some of the troubleshooting they're not used to for now. So we see EVs not wanting to connect, and then they're automatically thinking that this has something to do with the charger or the pistol or the system in itself. And then when you look into it deeper, it's basically just the EV not wanting to connect right there and then. Might be a bad connection from the driver. It might be because the EV's winding down or winding up, depending. So there's a little bit of the experience that they get throughout the process, where they see that, okay, reconnecting a vehicle is normal. And also, if there are any local variances on the power grid or other things, they'll get different error messages, and they can see it all in our system. So we'll just guide them through, and then if there's anything with the EV or the charger in itself, they'll see it very easily and get the OCPP messages to send to their suppliers. It's a really clean process now for them to see what's happening.
It's mostly just about getting used to that part of the process of connecting the buses.
Yes.
And how long would you say that it takes before a depot starts feeling normal again after going electric?
Well, that really depends on the depot. Some of them embrace this really quickly, and for some it's a longer process. And as I've said several times, the local differences really matter here, depending on where you operate, how many buses you have, and so on. But I have seen customers start the first week being very comfortable with this. And I've seen customers 3 to 6 months later still discussing what's the best way to go, even though they have 3 to 6 months of data to kind of rely on how they operate the day to day as a normal thing. But still, yeah.
So what advice would you then leave us with in making sure that that normal comes as quickly as possible?
Well, I would just start by, you can go to 100% in the beginning charging and then rely on the data. It's what we usually tell our customers as well. Where you see you can change your charging pattern comfortably and then make small steps towards the bigger change in the end. So you feel comfortable every step of the way. So do it in small increments and then just don't be afraid to readjust. It's super easy to just take another step or take a step back. It's not a problem at all.
Thank you.
I think that's a recurring theme that seems to keep on coming up, is that ability to have, as part of the change management and changing that mindset, having access to that data, to the data of what's worked, how the systems have performed over the last few months, what the impact on the infrastructure or the power is, all access to all those different data points, and that visibility piece is an important one to then build on. So really interesting. Were there any other questions, Leona, or was that?
No, nothing else.
Great. Well, good stuff. I think that was. I hope that was an insightful session to all the attendees on some insights from operators that we've worked with since 2018 on, what those challenges have been, maybe what those issues are that they don't think that they think are going to be big issues but aren't, and just some ideas of how operators can adjust their mindset to electric vehicles by using a CMS system. Obviously does the job properly for them, but also leveraging support teams like Ørjan and the team we have here at Tenix. So thank you, Ørjan. Thanks for all your insights and support today.
Thank you for having me. This was fun.
Good stuff. Well, hopefully we'll have more in the future. Many more to come. Of course, it's a very big topic. And thank you to all the attendees for joining today. We will send a recording out to everyone on the webinar. Please feel free to share with your colleagues. If you have any further questions, of course, as well, you can reach out to myself, to Ørjan, to Leona, to any of the Tenix team on anything that we've talked through today. And we are planning. We will have our next Tenix webinar in August. Still working on the subject, but we'll let you know in due course what the webinar and when it will be in August. But thanks all for attending. Thank you, Ørjan, and have a good rest of your day, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, Steve.
Bye-bye.